And he just found each one of their little niches and turned it on. Because when the cameras went off, he kept it up.
They say the truth always comes out. But what if it's already too late? Y'all, something about Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death just doesn't sit right. And now, Jaguar Wright. Yes, that Jaguar Wright is stepping forward with claims that are as chilling as they are specific. According to her, Malcolm didn't just die, he was taken out. And what she's revealing now might explain why so many people are suddenly staying quiet, because this wasn't just a tragic drowning in paradise. Jaguar says Malcolm was terrified, not just anxious, not just paranoid, terrified. Of what, or rather who, she won't name directly. But what she does say is enough to make you stop and question everything we thought we knew. Malcolm-Jamal Warner, the same man we grew up watching on The Cosby Show, reportedly didn't fly to Costa Rica for peace and relaxation. According to Jaguar, he was on the run, desperately trying to get away from people in high places, people who didn't want him to talk, people who allegedly had the power to make someone vanish without leaving a trace. And here's where things get especially creepy. Hours before he was found dead, Malcolm was captured on video walking alone on a beach at night. At first, it seemed like a peaceful moment, but when you really watch it back, it doesn't feel right. His posture, his energy, the way he keeps glancing behind him, it's like he knew something, or someone, was coming. He looked like a man counting down the hours. Then, just like that, he was gone. Officials chalked it up to a tragic drowning, another celebrity death written off as an accident. But Jaguar isn't buying it, and neither are a growing number of fans who are starting to ask questions the media refuses to. How does a trained swimmer just suddenly disappear in calm water? Why did the first story claim he was with his daughter, but later reports said she wasn't even there? Why are there two official narratives? And why don't they match? And now, according to Jaguar, the FBI has stepped in. Quietly. Carefully. But officially. See, this isn't just a celebrity death anymore. If there's even a grain of truth to what Jaguar's revealing, then this could be the beginning of a much bigger story, one that Hollywood has tried to bury for decades. Because Malcolm wasn't just a talented actor, he was also outspoken. He refused to play the game. And when people like that speak up, we all know how that ends. So buckle up, because what you're about to hear might just rewrite everything you thought you knew about Malcolm-Jamal Warner's final days, and shine a light on an industry built on silence. And trust me, once you hear what Jaguar has to say, you'll never look at his death the same way again. Malcolm's final days. Malcolm-Jamal Warner didn't just disappear from Hollywood and show up in Costa Rica for a little rest and relaxation. That's what the headlines wanted you to believe. But according to Jaguar Wright, this wasn't a vacation, it was a getaway, a desperate one. She claims Malcolm had been acting strangely in the weeks leading up to his death. He wasn't just low-key, he was distant, on edge, and almost haunted. Friends allegedly noticed he was isolating himself, canceling projects, and becoming more private than usual. Now, with everything coming out, it's looking less like reclusion and more like self-preservation. Jaguar says Malcolm wasn't just escaping noise, he was fleeing danger. Real danger. She claims he had received multiple threats from high-level people, the kind of people you can't just block or ignore, the kind of people who don't issue warnings twice, but the most chilling detail? A video surfaced just hours before his death, showing Malcolm walking alone on a dimly lit beach. No entourage, no security, just him and the waves. At first glance, it looks calm, almost meditative, but when you really watch it, something's off. His shoulders are stiff, his head keeps turning, like he's expecting someone to come up behind him. He's not at peace. He looks like a man waiting for something bad to happen. And that's exactly what Jaguar claims, that Malcolm had just been hit with another warning before that walk. She says he went to the beach not to relax, but to think, to process, maybe even to say goodbye. It doesn't stop there. Witnesses claimed he looked deeply troubled. Some even speculated he was under the influence of something. But when the autopsy report came back, no alcohol, no drugs, nothing. Completely clean. Which begs the question, what made him look so shaken, if it wasn't a substance? Now, with this new context, that beach video feels less like a random walk, and more like the last glimpse of a man who knew his time was running out. A man carrying secrets. A man who may have been silenced before he could share them. And the worst part? This might have been his final message, one we didn't catch until it was already too late. Death and discrepancy. Malcolm's death was reported as a simple drowning, a tragic accident in Costa Rica. But from the moment the news broke, something didn't feel right. The official report claimed Malcolm was caught in a riptide while swimming with a friend. They said he had just been playing with his daughter on the shoreline, and after getting her to safety, he entered the water and never came back. A heartbreaking image, right? A father trying to enjoy a beach day with his child, then swept away by nature. But here's where things start to crack. Another official, this time from Costa Rica's tourist police, gave a completely different version. According to him, Malcolm's family, including his daughter, wasn't even at the beach when the incident occurred. In fact, they reportedly weren't present at all during the drowning. So, which is it? Two official stories, both from authorities. And yet, they completely contradict each other. And it doesn't end there. Some witnesses say Malcolm was with a friend, others say he was alone. Some mention a surfer trying to help, others don't. Even the timeline of the drowning doesn't seem to line up. It's as if no one can agree on what actually happened. Or worse, they're all reading from different scripts. Jaguar Wright isn't buying any of it. She claims the drowning story is just a front, that Malcolm was already dead before he ever entered the ocean. That would explain why he didn't struggle. No fight, no signs of panic, just gone. Remember, Malcolm was an experienced swimmer. He wasn't some tourist caught off guard. He knew how to handle a riptide. He knew what to do. And yet, he didn't even try. Fans have pointed out that even if he had been pulled into a current, he would have fought. Unless he couldn't. Or worse, unless there was nothing to fight because the drowning didn't actually happen the way we were told. And that brings us to the deeper question. If this wasn't just an accident, then what was it? Because from where Jaguar's standing, this wasn't nature's doing. This was something far more calculated, something man-made. And whoever was behind it clearly had the power to make multiple stories circulate at once, while the truth quietly drowned beneath the surface. Autopsy and sobriety. When the autopsy report dropped, it silenced a lot of the early speculation, but not in the way people expected. See, when that video of Malcolm walking alone on the beach surfaced, it didn't take long for people to start whispering. Some viewers swore he looked high, others hinted at alcohol or pills, saying he seemed dazed or unstable. The mood, his body language, the blankness in his face, it all just felt off, like something was working its way through his system. But when the toxicology results came back, nothing. No substances, no alcohol, no prescription meds. Malcolm-Jamal Warner was completely clean. And that one fact flipped everything on its head. Because if he wasn't under the influence of anything, then what was he reacting to in that video? What had him so tense, so disconnected, like his mind was somewhere else entirely? Jaguar Wright says this proves what she's been claiming all along. Malcolm wasn't intoxicated, he was terrified. That beach walk wasn't the result of being high, it was the weight of fear, the fear of what was coming. She insists that Malcolm had just been threatened again, right before that video was taken, this time by people so powerful, so deeply connected, that even whispering their names could put you on a list. According to Jaguar, this wasn't some vague warning. This was specific, intentional, a clear message. Keep quiet, or else. And now, knowing that Malcolm's system was completely clean, that beach footage feels like something else entirely. Not a man under the influence, but a man fully aware of how real the danger was. A man who might have realized he had no way out. It reframes the entire narrative. Because when someone with nothing in their system looks that haunted, it usually means something deeper is eating at them. Something real. And if Jaguar is right, then that beach wasn't just the last place he walked. It might have been the last place he thought. The last place he tried to process what was coming. No drugs, no alcohol, just fear, just pressure, just silence building up around a man who may have known too much and couldn't hold it in much longer. The warning signs. Before Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death, the signs were already there. We just weren't paying attention. According to Jaguar Wright, Malcolm wasn't just stressed or burned out. He was afraid. And not just of being canceled or criticized. We're talking real fear. Fear for his life. Jaguar claims that in the weeks before Costa Rica, Malcolm had received multiple threats from individuals connected to the industry. People who had a lot to lose if certain secrets ever got out. And the timing couldn't have been worse, because Malcolm was reportedly ready to talk. She says he had information that could have rattled the very foundations of the Hollywood elite. And it wasn't the first time he pushed back either. He'd been quietly calling out hypocrisy in the business for years. But this time, it was personal. This time, he was preparing to go public. Jaguar insists that the moment on the beach, captured just hours before his death, came right after another warning. Not just a phone call or a message, but something that shook him. You can see it in his body language. He wasn't relaxing, he was reflecting, trying to make sense of how everything got so dark, so fast. And now that the autopsy has ruled out substances, that beach walk hits differently. This wasn't a man lost in thought. It was a man who knew something was coming and had no way to stop it. If Jaguar is telling the truth, Malcolm's final days weren't just a downward spiral. They were a countdown, a series of warnings, each one louder than the last. Until finally, there was only silence. Hollywood's pattern of silencing. If you've been watching Hollywood long enough, you know this isn't the first time someone outspoken suddenly vanished from the spotlight. Or worse. Jaguar Wright draws a direct line between Malcolm-Jamal Warner's fate and a disturbing pattern that's haunted the entertainment industry for decades. The moment a black man in Hollywood stops playing by the rules, refuses to smile, stay quiet, or be safe, he becomes a problem. And that's when the industry starts pushing back. Hard. Malcolm, according to Jaguar, refused to shrink himself to fit Hollywood's idea of who he should be. He didn't want to play the quiet, passive role. He wanted to speak, to expose, to lead. And that made him dangerous. Just look at what happened to Dave Chappelle. In 2005, he famously walked away from a $50 million deal with Comedy Central. The media painted him as unstable. Rumors spread that he was on drugs. But when Dave finally spoke out, he told a different story. It wasn't the money, it was the pressure, the manipulation, the feeling that he was being used to humiliate his own people. He said, "I wasn't walking away from the money. I was walking away from the circumstances." According to Jaguar, Malcolm was going down that same path. But instead of walking away, he may have been forced out. This pattern of silencing is brutal and consistent. From Mariah Carey being labeled crazy after a $100 million deal to Martin Lawrence screaming, "They're trying to kill me" in the middle of the street, the signs are always there. Malcolm, like so many before him, stood up. But if Jaguar's right, standing up in Hollywood often comes with a price. And this time, it may have been fatal. The conspiracies. He was unpacking. Malcolm-Jamal Warner wasn't just a former child star trying to stay relevant. He was someone who had started asking uncomfortable questions. And according to Jaguar Wright, that's exactly what put him in danger. One of the biggest red flags? Malcolm's reaction to the Drake versus Kendrick Lamar beef that took over the hip-hop world. While everyone else was picking sides and feeding the drama, Malcolm took a step back and called out the bigger picture. He suggested that powerful people behind the scenes were manipulating both artists, stoking the feud to divide and distract. Jaguar claims this was the moment the industry really started watching him, because he wasn't just observing, he was connecting dots. But it didn't stop there. In his final podcast interviews, Malcolm spoke candidly about how black men in Hollywood are controlled, boxed in, and used like puppets. He pointed out how media narratives strip away their humanity, label them as threats, or break them down when they resist. The most haunting part? He wasn't vague. He spoke with urgency, like a man racing the clock. He said he wanted to shed light on the sides of the black community that mainstream media refuses to show. Not just the hood stories, but the thinkers, the creators, the truth tellers. He made it clear. He wasn't just talking anymore, he was preparing to expose. And according to Jaguar, that made him a liability. He wasn't ranting, he was focused, deliberate, and ready to speak names. In Hollywood, that kind of boldness doesn't go unnoticed. Malcolm wasn't playing into the system anymore, and when you challenge that system, history shows what tends to happen next. Conflicting reports. If Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death was just a tragic accident, then why are there so many conflicting stories? From the start, the reports didn't line up. The first version came from Costa Rica's Judicial Investigation Agency. According to them, Malcolm had been playing with his daughter near the shoreline. He supposedly got her out of the water and then entered the ocean with a friend. That's when the current allegedly pulled them both under. The friend made it out alive, but Malcolm didn't. It was a tragic, emotional story, one that painted Malcolm as a hero and father. But then the second version surfaced. The chief of the tourist police claimed something completely different. He stated that Malcolm's family, including his daughter, was not even at the beach when the drowning happened. In fact, they weren't present at all during the incident. That alone raised massive red flags. How do two official agencies tell completely different stories about who was on the scene? And it gets weirder. Some witnesses mentioned a surfer helping Malcolm's daughter. Others said a lifeguard pulled multiple people from the water. The details are vague, messy, and, worst of all, contradictory. Then there's the reaction from the authorities themselves. When the Daily Mail asked for clarification, the Judicial Investigation Agency didn't change their story. They just repeated it. No explanation, no adjustment, no effort to address the contradictions. It's like everyone involved was reading a different script. And when the truth becomes that murky, you have to wonder, what are they trying to cover? Jaguar Wright believes this confusion isn't just chaos, it's strategy. When the facts don't add up, it's usually because someone doesn't want them to. And in this case, the truth might be buried under a mountain of misdirection. U.S. government steps. And when rumors started swirling that Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death didn't add up, most people assumed it would just get swept under the rug. But according to Jaguar Wright, that's not what happened. In fact, she claims the U.S. government is now quietly stepping in. Why? Because even though Malcolm died in Costa Rica, he was a U.S. citizen. And when an American dies under suspicious circumstances abroad, especially someone with high visibility, it doesn't go unnoticed. Jaguar says federal authorities have launched their own investigation, independent of the Costa Rican reports. And that's no small deal. The U.S. doesn't typically jump into foreign cases unless there's a strong reason to believe something shady happened. And let's not forget, we've seen this kind of thing before. Back in 2022, Shankella Robinson, another U.S. citizen, died while on vacation in Cabo, Mexico. Mexican officials were already investigating, But after inconsistencies and growing public outcry, the FBI stepped in to conduct their own probe. Why? Because the story didn't make sense, and public pressure was mounting. Now, with Jaguar fueling the fire and fans raising questions across social media, the Malcolm Warner case is following a similar path, quietly, behind the scenes. Jaguar claims there are already federal eyes on the inconsistencies, the conflicting witness statements, the contradictory reports, the missing footage, and the overall secrecy surrounding what should have been a simple investigation. If what she's saying is true, and if U.S. authorities uncover foul play, this won't just be about Malcolm anymore. It'll be about the people he was allegedly trying to expose, the ones with power, the ones who never thought anyone would come knocking. And if the truth really comes out, it could shake Hollywood to its core. Conclusion, bar, final reveal. If Jaguar Wright is right, and let's not forget, she's been right before, then Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death wasn't just tragic, it was strategic. And now, with the US government reportedly stepping in, we might finally be on the edge of something much bigger than anyone expected. This isn't just about a celebrity drowning on vacation. This is about why he was there in the first place. According to Jaguar, Malcolm wasn't trying to escape the limelight. He was trying to stay alive. He was scared. He was running. And his final days weren't a peaceful getaway. They were a desperate countdown. We've seen it before. Hollywood has a long, disturbing pattern of breaking people who don't conform. Malcolm wasn't the first to speak out, and tragically, he might not be the last. But what makes his case so haunting is how loud the warning signs were after the fact. The eerie beach video, the conflicting reports, the autopsy that ruled out drugs, the way people who were supposedly on scene can't even agree on what happened. And now, the investigation may be moving out of Costa Rica and into federal hands. If that's true, then someone, somewhere, is going to have to answer some very uncomfortable questions. Because if this wasn't an accident, if Malcolm was silenced before he could speak, then it's not just about one man. It's about a system, one that protects the powerful, punishes the outspoken, and erases anyone who dares pull back the curtain. Jaguar's story is raw. It's bold, and maybe even a little dangerous. But if even a fraction of what she's saying turns out to be true, then everything we thought we knew about Malcolm-Jamal Warner's death was a lie hiding in plain sight.